Okay, so bad things are happening and we're in trouble. Everybody's talking about that. But today I will present good news, though at first it may not seem like it. Because the important thing is that all the bad news, like impending World War III, ongoing monetary, military, fiscal, civil, and cultural collapse, all of it is, don't get mad at me. I'll just come out and say it. All of it is our fault. Collectively, we chose this. We, the people, with our compliance, apathy, inaction, taxes, votes, and letting other people vote for us, messed up. But actually, it's good that it's our fault. In the following series of videos on constitutional rule of our republic, I will try my best to convince you of that fact, because I'm convinced that's the only way to shove aside our collective hopelessness, apathy, and self-destructive loyalty to a terrible, inherently divide and conquer us all system, to demonstrate that the flip side of our power to screw up is our power to fix this whenever we choose. We have the numbers, obviously. Our ruling class is far less than the 1% we decry. We outnumber the bad guys hundreds of millions to one. And I'll prove that the law is on our side too. All we need is will and chutzpah. All revolutions start in the mind, you know. Hi, I'm Andy Horning, author of Relighting the Torch, and this is the first of some brief, hopefully clear and simple videos on how this country was supposed to work, where and why we went wrong, and how we can fix it peacefully and mostly in a single day. Okay, to be fair, there never really was a golden age of wisdom, security, peace, prosperity, and liberty and justice for all. While the ink was still wet on our federal Constitution, the very people who wrote it, signed and ratified it, began to violate it. But that wasn't their fault. We'll get to that later. The hint is that our federal Constitution is still the newest and best idea in politics, yet only a precious few among us have any idea what it's for, let alone what it says. I hope to correct that. For example, what if the president's power was so much more administrative than powerful that it wouldn't matter so much who it was, and we wouldn't fight about the office so much? What if our U.S. House reps were not only accountable to us directly, because there are more of them and they'd be more local, but also they'd be the ones accountable for our wars, laws, monetary system, and in fact all the important stuff. That's not the case now. What if our military's design gave us control over funding, the secrecy, lies, violence, and hopefully greatly reduced foreign interventions? What if all governing power was much more distributed and locally accountable? What if your taxes were slashed to practically nothing and laws kept politicians on a leash, not you? What if we had such immense power of peaceful revolution that we'd never feel we need to be mad at our politicians anymore? What if we were so free and prosperous and safe that the world would want to emulate us, not fight us? They'd want to compete with our freedom, not our monetary, military, spies, and lies chicanery. We're going to go over all that and a lot more. Short answer? It's all good news. But before we launch into the words and meaning of our federal covenant, let's start with the earlier, very important Dear John letter that started it all. Our precious, unfortunately misunderstood, Declaration of Independence. I believe that the most important actionable words of the Declaration are these, that, quote, that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security." Unquote. In other words, we humans tend to put up with a lot of abuse before we'll do anything about it. We tend to support the status quo even as we're obviously the frogs in the cookpot. But when governments invariably squeeze too hard, it is our duty, It is our ability, even, to throw off such oppression. Now, the founders had to fight the global superpower and start a new government from nothing. No constitution, no consensus. The existing 13 colonies were essentially 13 separate and sovereign nations, and they understood that to survive, they needed to form some sort of collective union. It's an unfortunate fact of our species that it's phenomenally rare for intelligent, educated people to have any significant role in our politics. Nobody's without flaws or encumbered by the baggage of their times, but this part of the planet was spectacularly blessed with smart people and political power in the late 1700s. Not only were they somehow able to throw off their own government, a global superpower, twice, with only a minority, less than 25% of the population agreeing that that should even be done, with almost no government of their own at all, they were able to survive the internecine conflicts between royalists, traders, slavers, and abolitionists, and the doomed Articles of Confederation to craft their own historically unique constitution from lessons learned in violence and from the wisest minds from ancient Greece all the way to their own time. It's important to ponder this if we're to consider radical change. I hope we strongly consider the Constitution as not a discarded relic from a troubled time, but as the best plan any group of people have ever agreed to and signed into fundamental law. We humans tend to think we're going forward when really we keep going back to pre-Hammurabi authoritarianism, corruption, and the impoverishing violence that always entails. Stay tuned. I think you'll like what follows. A lot of our ancestors, both foreign and domestic, thought it was worth dangerous voyages of uprooting and relocation, even fighting and dying for, just to pass it on to you. Thanks for watching. Liberty or bust.